Admiral Sarah stood in the command center of Titan Station, watching the giant screens that showed the darkness of space around Saturn. The year was 2387, and humanity had built cities on dozens of worlds. Earth was no longer alone. People lived on Mars, Europa, and even planets around distant stars. The Terran Colonial Federation protected them all. Sarah had been an admiral for 15 years. She had fought pirates and settled disputes between colonies. She thought she had seen everything that space could throw at humanity. She was wrong. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Torres from his station. His voice shook with fear. "Long-range sensors are picking up something massive coming our way." Sarah walked over to Torres' station. The young man's face was pale as he pointed at his screen. "Show me," she said. The main display lit up with red dots moving through space toward Earth's solar system. Sarah counted them quickly. 20 dots, 50, 100. The computer kept finding more. "How many?" Sarah asked. 500 ships, Admiral," Torres said. His hands trembled as he checked the readings again. "All of them bigger than our largest battleships. They're moving in perfect formation." Sarah felt her stomach drop. The entire human defense fleet had only 47 ships. Most of those were cruisers and destroyers, not the huge battleships that could fight a real war. Earth had good planetary defenses, but nothing that could stop 500 enemy ships. "Where did they come from?" Sarah asked. "Unknown, Admiral. They just appeared at the edge of our sensor range. They're using technology we've never seen before." Sarah watched the red dots on the screen. They moved like a school of fish, turning and adjusting course as one unit. No human fleet could move with that kind of precision. These ships were designed by minds that thought differently than humans. "Send a message to Earth Command," Sarah ordered. "Tell them we have a situation." The next few hours were chaos. Ships all across the solar system sent the same reports. 500 alien vessels approaching Earth. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had built. The ships had shields that could probably stop nuclear weapons. Their hulls were made from materials that human sensors couldn't identify. Then the aliens sent a message. Sarah listened to the transmission in her office with the other senior officers. The voice that came through the speakers was cold and mechanical. It spoke perfect English, but without any emotion. "People of Earth," the voice said, "we are the hegemony. We have conquered 400 star systems and absorbed 67 different species into our collective. You will surrender within 72 hours or face complete destruction." The message continued. "Your ships are primitive, your weapons are weak, your defenses cannot stop us. We offer you one chance to survive. Surrender now and you will be relocated to designated worlds where you will work for the greater good of the hegemony. Refuse, and every human in this solar system will die." The transmission ended. Sarah's office was quiet for a long moment. "How many species have surrendered to them?" asked Captain Martinez, the station's second in command. "Probably all of them," Sarah said. "Who would fight against 500 ships when they only had 50? But even as she said it, Sarah knew the answer. Humans would fight. It was what they did. They had fought each other for thousands of years on Earth. They had fought pirates in space. They had fought diseases, disasters, and the cold vacuum of space itself. Fighting impossible odds was something humans understood. The next day brought more bad news. The alien fleet was moving faster than expected. They would reach Earth's orbit in 60 hours, not 72. Earth's government called emergency meetings. Some colonies voted to surrender immediately. Others prepared to fight to the last person. Sarah ran computer simulations with her tactical team. They tried every strategy they could think of. Hit-and-run attacks, defensive positions, even kamikaze runs where human ships would ram the alien vessels. Every simulation ended the same way. The human fleet would be destroyed and Earth would be defenseless. "What about guerrilla warfare?" suggested Captain Martinez. "We could hide ships in the asteroid belt and attack them after they take Earth." "With what?" Sarah asked. "If they destroy our shipyards and manufacturing centers, we'll have nothing left to fight with." The alien ships continued their approach. They stayed in perfect formation, moving like a single organism. Human scouts tried to get close enough to scan their weapons, but the alien ships destroyed every probe that came within 1,000,000 kilometers. The scouts reported that the alien vessels used some kind of energy weapons that could destroy a probe instantly. Panic began to spread through human space. Transport ships filled with refugees fled toward the outer colonies. Parents sent their children to relatives on distant worlds. Stock markets crashed. Some people rioted, others prayed. Sarah didn't have time for panic. She worked 18-hour days preparing Earth's defenses. She moved every available ship toward Mars, where they would make their stand. The red planet would be humanity's last line of defense before Earth itself. On the second day, the aliens sent another message. This time they included images of worlds they had conquered, cities reduced to ash, populations moved to prison camps, entire species working as slaves in alien factories. The message was clear: surrender or this will happen to Earth. Some colonies changed their votes. The government of Europa announced they would surrender if the aliens reached Earth. 3 outer colonies declared independence from the Federation and offered to serve the hegemony immediately. But Earth itself voted to fight. The home world of humanity would not bow to alien invaders. Sarah stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Defiance, as it moved toward Mars. Around her, 46 other human ships prepared for battle. They were brave ships with brave crews, but they were about to face an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. The aliens were 12 hours away. Sarah looked at the tactical display one more time. 500 red dots against 47 blue ones. In any other universe, this would be the end of humanity. But humans had always been stubborn. They had always found ways to win when winning seemed impossible. Sarah just hoped they could find one more miracle. They were going to need it. The war room on Earth buzzed with activity. Representatives from every human colony argued through video screens that covered the walls. Some shouted for immediate surrender. Others demanded that every ship fight to the death. Admiral watched from her position near Mars, feeling helpless as humanity tore itself apart. "The outer colonies are right," said Governor Williams from Europa. "We can't win this fight. Better to live as slaves than die as heroes." "Speak for yourself," snapped General from Luna Base. "I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees." The argument went on for hours. While politicians debated, Admiral worked with her tactical team to find some way to hurt the alien fleet. They studied every piece of data their scouts had gathered. The alien ships were massive, each one 3 times larger than a human battleship. Their hulls seemed to be made from a single piece of some unknown metal. No welding marks, no construction seams. It was like they had been grown rather than built. "Look at this," said Commander Parks, Chief Tactical Officer. She pointed to a screen showing the alien formation. "They move as one unit, perfect coordination. When one ship turns, they all turn at exactly the same time." "That should be impossible," said. "The communication lag alone would prevent that kind of precision." "Unless they're using some kind of quantum communication system," Park replied. "Or they're all controlled by a central computer." Studied the formation. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, 500 ships moving like a single creature. Human fleets could never achieve that kind of coordination. Human captains were too independent, too stubborn. They followed orders, but they also improvised and adapted. Maybe that was the key. Maybe the aliens' greatest strength was also a weakness. The alien fleet reached Jupiter's orbit and stopped. They formed a perfect sphere around the gas giant, with each ship exactly the same distance from its neighbors. Then they sent another message. "Humans of Earth," the cold voice said, "you have 6 hours to surrender. We will not offer terms again. Choose wisely." Felt sweat on her forehead despite the cool air on her ship's bridge. 6 hours. Not enough time to run, even if there was somewhere to go. Not enough time to build new weapons or call for reinforcements. 6 hours to prepare for the end of humanity. She opened a communication channel to all human ships. 47 blue dots on her screen, facing 500 red ones. Each blue dot represented hundreds of men and women who had volunteered to die for their species. "This is Admiral," she said. "In 6 hours, we're going to fight a battle we can't win. The aliens have better ships, better weapons, and better technology. They outnumber us 10 to 1. Any reasonable person would surrender." She paused, looking at the faces of her crew. Young and old from a dozen different worlds, they all had the same expression. Grim determination mixed with fear, but no sign of surrender. "But we're not reasonable people," continued. "We're humans. We've been fighting impossible odds since we first picked up rocks to defend our caves. We've beaten diseases that should have killed us. We've survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. We've turned a dead planet into a garden and reached for the stars. The communication channel crackled with static, but could see her words having an effect on the other ships. Captains sat in their chairs. Crews checked their weapons one more time. "I'm not going to lie to you," said. "Most of us are going to die today, maybe all of us. But we're going to make them pay for every inch of space. We're going to show them that humans don't go quietly into the dark." When the transmission ended, Bridge was silent. Then Lieutenant Torres spoke up. "Admiral, I'm getting strange readings from the asteroid belt." Walked over to his station. "What kind of readings?" "A ship, Admiral, but the signature is all wrong. It's human, but the design is ancient. At least 200 years old." Frowned. "That's impossible. No ship that old could still be functioning." "The computer identifies it as the UES Indomitable, registered as lost in 2159. Felt a chill run down her spine. Every naval officer knew the story of the Indomitable. It was one of the first ships built for interstellar warfare, launched during the Void Wars when humanity fought itself among the stars. The ship had vanished during a battle near over 2 centuries ago. "Sir," Torres continued, "it's requesting permission to join the defense fleet." Stared at the sensor reading. A ghost ship from humanity's violent past, appearing just when they needed it most. She didn't believe in miracles, but she wasn't going to turn down help from anywhere. "Grant permission," she said, "and get me a communication link." The face that appeared on her screen looked impossibly old. The man's hair was white, and his skin showed the deep lines of someone who had lived far longer than nature intended. But his eyes were sharp and alert. "Admiral," the old man said, "I'm captain of the UES Indomitable. We're here to help." "Captain," replied, trying to hide her confusion, "according to our records, your ship was lost over 200 years ago." Smiled and could see that some of his teeth had been replaced with metal implants. "Time moves differently when you're fighting in the dark between stars, Admiral. We've been out here for a long time, hunting pirates and protecting settlements that the Federation forgot about. With respect, Captain, your ship is ancient. Our current vessels have weapons and shields you've never seen." "Maybe," said, "but we've seen things you haven't. We've fought enemies that your academy never taught you about. And we've learned things about warfare that your modern ships have forgotten." On tactical display, the alien fleet began to move. They were leaving Jupiter's orbit and heading toward Mars. 500 ships moving with perfect precision, like a school of metal fish swimming through space. "Admiral said, I need you to trust me. My ship may be old, but my crew knows how to fight. We've been preparing for something like this for decades." Looked at her tactical display again. 47 human ships against 500 aliens. The odds were hopeless, but sometimes desperate situations called for desperate measures. "What do you need, Captain?" she asked. Smile grew wider. "Just follow our lead when the time comes, and be ready to adapt quickly. This isn't going to be the kind of battle they taught you about in the academy." The alien fleet continued its approach. Could see them clearly now on her long-range scanners. Massive ships with smooth, organic curves. They looked more like living creatures than machines of war. But the Indomitable looked different. It was, and patched, held together by determination and stubbornness. It looked like a ship that had been through hell and refused to die. Maybe that was exactly what humanity needed. The UES Indomitable looked like it had been through 100 wars. Admiral studied the ancient frigate through her telescope as it moved to join the human fleet. The ship's hull was covered in patches and repair plates, burn marks from energy weapons its armor. Yet somehow, it still moved through space with the grace of a predator. Captain appeared on his communication screen again. Behind him, she could see his bridge crew. They were all old, impossibly old. Their faces showed the deep lines and scars of people who had lived through decades of combat. Some had mechanical arms or legs. Others had eye patches or hearing implants. They looked like veterans from a war that had ended before was born. Captain said, "I need to understand what I'm dealing with. Your ship was reported destroyed in 2159. That's 228 years ago. How are you still alive?" Leaned back in his command chair. It was an old-style seat, nothing like the modern command centers in current ships. "Life extension technology, Admiral. The early stuff before they figured out how to make it comfortable. My crew and I have been running on borrowed time for longer than most civilizations exist." Frowned. The early life extension treatments were dangerous. Most people who used them died within 50 years. "Most people," agreed. But we weren't most people. We were the survivors of the Void Wars. We learned to live with pain to push our bodies beyond their limits. When the Federation offered us retirement, we chose to keep fighting. On tactical display, the alien fleet was 2 hours away from Mars. They moved in perfect formation, never breaking their pattern even as they navigated around asteroids and space debris. It was like watching a computer simulation rather than real ships. Captain said, "With all due respect, your ship is from another era. Our weapons have improved dramatically since your time. Our shields, our engines, our computers, everything is more advanced now." Smiled, "Admiral, do you know what we were doing when your scouts first detected this alien fleet?" "No, sir." "We were tracking them. We've been following these creatures for 15 years, ever since we encountered their scouts near the Veil Nebula. We've studied their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses." Felt her heart skip a beat. "You've fought them before." "Fought them? No, Admiral, we learned from them. We watched them destroy 3 different species. We saw how they operate, how they think. Your modern fleet doesn't understand what you're facing." Gestured to someone off-screen. A moment later, a new image appeared on display. It showed a battle in deep space. Alien ships, identical to the ones approaching Mars, were attacking a fleet of unknown vessels. The defending ships had technology that looked even more advanced than current human designs. The Confederation said, "They had 400 ships, all of them bigger and better armed than anything in your fleet. Watch what happens." Watch the recording in horror. The alien ships moved with perfect coordination, their weapons firing in precise patterns. The ships fought bravely, but they couldn't adapt to the aliens' tactics. Within an hour, the entire fleet was destroyed. "They call themselves the Hegemony," continued. "They've conquered 67 species using the same tactics every time. Perfect coordination, overwhelming firepower, and absolute precision. No species has ever defeated them." "Then how do we win?" asked. Smile grew wider. "By being human, Admiral, by doing what humans do best, fighting dirty." The old captain stood up from his chair. Could see that he moved carefully, like someone whose body had endured too much damage over too many years. But his eyes were sharp and alert. "The Hegemony's greatest strength is their coordination," said. "Every ship in their fleet is connected to a central command network. They share information instantly, react to threats as a single unit, and never make tactical errors." "That sounds impossible to defeat," said. "It would be if they were fighting a conventional battle. But Admiral, your fleet doesn't fight conventional battles. Human ships are designed to operate independently. Your captains are trained to adapt and improvise. That independence is something the Hegemony has never encountered." Walked to another station on his bridge. Could see ancient weapons controls and targeting systems that looked like they belonged in a museum. "My ship carries something your modern vessels don't have," said. "Weapons designed for the chaos of the Void Wars, equipment built to disrupt enemy communications and coordination. Most importantly, we have something called a chaos engine." "I've never heard of that," admitted. "It was classified technology during the Void Wars, too dangerous for regular use. The chaos engine creates interference patterns that scramble communication networks and disrupt coordinated attacks. We built it to fight human fleets that used similar tactics to the Hegemony." Felt a spark of hope. Can it work against alien technology? "We'll find out," said. "But Admiral, using the Chaos engine requires getting close to the enemy formation. Very close. My ship won't survive the activation." The weight of words hit like a physical blow. The old captain was volunteering for a suicide mission. His crew, men and women who had lived for over 2 centuries, were willing to die to give humanity a chance. Captain said, "There has to be another way." Shook his head. "Admiral, my crew and I have been living on borrowed time for longer than most people can imagine. We've fought every kind of enemy in this galaxy. Pirates, rebels, alien creatures. We've seen it all. This is what we trained for. This is why we stayed alive when everyone else retired." Looked at her tactical display. The alien fleet was 90 minutes away. 500 ships moving like a single organism, carrying enough firepower to sterilize every human world. "What do you need from us?" asked. "When we activate the Chaos engine, the Hegemony fleet will lose their coordination for approximately 10 minutes, said. "Their shields will drop to individual ship settings. Their weapons will fire independently instead of in coordinated patterns. That's your window." 10 minutes to destroy 500 ships. 10 minutes to break their will to fight, corrected. The hegemony has never faced serious resistance. They've never lost ships in large numbers. If you can destroy enough of their vessels in those 10 minutes, the survivors will retreat. Studied the tactical display again. With the aliens fighting as individuals instead of a coordinated fleet, human ships might have a chance. Not a good chance, but better than the 0% they had now. "Captain," she said, "on behalf of humanity, I accept your offer." Nodded. "It's been an honor serving with the human fleet, Admiral. My crew and I will begin our approach in 30 minutes. When you see us start our attack run, give us 5 minutes, then hit them with everything you have." The communication link closed, stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to her bridge crew. They had all heard the conversation. They knew that an ancient ship and its ancient crew were about to sacrifice themselves for a slim chance at victory. "All ships," announced over the fleet communication channel, "prepare for battle. In 1 hour, we're going to show the galaxy what humans can do when they're backed into a corner." Outside her viewport, could see the Indomitable moving away from the main fleet. It looked small and fragile compared to the massive alien ships approaching Mars. But it carried the hopes of an entire species and the courage of warriors who refused to surrender even after 2 centuries of fighting. The battle for humanity was about to begin. The alien fleet stopped just outside Mars orbit. 500 ships arranged themselves in perfect formation, like a 3-dimensional chess board made of metal and death. Each vessel took its assigned position with mechanical precision. Admiral watched them through her telescope and felt a chill run down her spine. She had never seen anything so organized, so perfectly controlled. Captain's voice crackled over the communication channel. "Admiral, are you seeing this formation?" "Yes, Captain. They're arranging themselves for maximum fire coverage." "That's exactly what they did at 442 when they destroyed the Empire," said, "and at Wolf 359 when they eliminated the Crystalline Collective. Same formation, same tactics. They never change because they never need to." Could hear weapons systems charging on ancient ship. The sound was different from modern vessels, rougher, more mechanical. It reminded her of old industrial machinery from Earth's factories. "Captain, explain your plan one more time," requested. "I need to make sure my fleet understands." His image appeared on her screen. Behind him, his ancient crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had done this before many times. Could see that some of them were praying, others were checking weapons systems that looked older than most human colonies. "The hegemony fleet uses something called the Unity Protocol," explained. "Every ship is connected to their command network. When one ship detects a threat, all ships respond instantly. When one ship fires, they all coordinate their targeting. It makes them incredibly effective against conventional fleets." But prompted. "But it also makes them vulnerable to the right kind of interference," continued. "During the Void Wars, we faced human fleets that used similar coordination systems. We developed the Chaos Engine specifically to disrupt those networks." Gestured to a strange device on his bridge. It looked like a sphere covered in metal spikes, with cables running to every major system on the ship. Energy crackled around its surface. "When we activate the Chaos Engine, it will send out electromagnetic pulses across multiple frequencies," said. "The pulses will interfere with the Unity Protocol and force each alien ship to operate independently. Their shields will drop to individual power settings. Their weapons will lose their coordinated targeting." Nodded, "And that's when we attack." "Exactly, but Admiral, the Chaos Engine draws power from our ship's entire reactor system. Once we activate it, the Indomitable will be defenseless. We'll be flying dead into the center of their formation." Looked at her tactical display. The alien ships were beginning to move again, spreading out to surround the human fleet. In 30 minutes, they would be in firing range. In 45 minutes, the battle would be over unless plan worked. "Captain, are you absolutely certain this will work?" asked. Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "Admiral, I've been fighting for over 200 years. I've seen technology change, tactics evolve, and weapons improve beyond recognition. But one thing never changes, the importance of disrupting your enemy's plans." The old captain stood up from his chair. Could see his crew behind him, men and women who looked like they had stepped out of a history book. They wore old-style uniforms patched and repaired countless times. Their equipment was ancient but well-maintained. Most importantly, they all wore the same expression, grim determination mixed with peace. They had made their decision long ago. "My crew and I have lived longer than any humans in history," said. "We've seen the Federation grow from a few colonies to a galactic civilization. We've protected settlements that no one else cared about, fought enemies that no one else remembered. This is our last battle, Admiral. We're going to make it count." The Indomitable began moving toward the alien formation. Watched the ancient frigate accelerate, its old engines leaving a trail of blue fire behind it. The ship looked tiny compared to the massive alien vessels, like a single fish swimming toward a school of sharks. "All ships," announced on the fleet channel. "The Indomitable is beginning its attack run. Be ready to exploit the chaos they create. Remember, we only get one chance at this." The alien fleet detected the approaching ship. Their weapons began tracking the Indomitable, but they didn't fire yet. Realized they were probably confused by what they saw. A single, ancient human ship charging directly at 500 alien vessels. It made no tactical sense. That was exactly what was counting on. "Admiral's voice came over the channel one last time. "It's been an honor serving with the human fleet. Tell our people that the old wolves went down fighting." The Indomitable hit the edge of the alien formation. Immediately, every alien ship turned toward it. Energy beams lanced out from dozens of vessels, striking the ancient frigate's shields. Ship shuddered under the impact but kept flying deeper into the formation. Watched in amazement as the Indomitable dodged and weaved between alien ships. Was flying patterns that no modern pilot would attempt. Tight spirals, sudden direction changes, moves that would crush a normal crew under the acceleration forces. But its crew had been modified by primitive life extension technology. They could survive forces that would kill ordinary humans. The ancient frigate reached the center of the alien formation. Could see it on her screen, surrounded by massive alien ships on all sides. Energy beams converged on the Indomitable from every direction. Now said simply, "The Chaos engine activated." Had never seen anything like it. The space around the Indomitable filled with crackling energy that spread outward like ripples on a pond. The electromagnetic pulse washed over the alien ships, and immediately their perfect formation began to fall apart. Ships that had been moving in precise coordination suddenly started drifting in different directions. The energy beams that had been firing in coordinated patterns became random, unfocused bursts. Most importantly, the shields that had been overlapping to create an impenetrable barrier flickered and weakened. "All ships attack," shouted into her communicator. The human fleet charged forward. 47 ships against 500, but now the odds were different. The alien vessels were operating as individuals, confused and disoriented by the loss of their network connection. Ship the Defiance targeted the nearest alien vessel. Her weapons officer fired a full spread of missiles and energy beams. The alien ship's shields, no longer reinforced by its neighbors, cracked under the impact. Atmosphere vented from the hull as the massive vessel began to list. All around the battlefield, human ships pressed their attack. They used tactics that the hegemony had never seen before. Sudden direction changes, coordinated attacks from multiple angles, weapons fired in unpredictable patterns. The aliens, trained to fight as a unified force, couldn't adapt to this kind of chaotic combat. But the Indomitable was dying. Without power for its shields, ship was being torn apart by alien weapons fire. Could see sections of the hull breaking away, debris spinning off into space. "Captain, get out of there," shouted. His voice came back weak and distorted. "Negative, Admiral. We're staying until the job is done. Keep fighting. Show them what humans can do." The ancient frigate continued to broadcast the chaos field even as its hull cracked and its engines failed. And his crew were buying time with their lives, giving the human fleet precious minutes to exploit the aliens' confusion. Watched her tactical display with growing hope. Human ships were destroying alien vessels faster than she had dreamed possible. The enemy fleet, so perfectly coordinated minutes before, was now scattered and vulnerable. The tide of battle was turning, but the real fight was just beginning. The chaos was beautiful and terrible to watch. Admiral stared at her tactical display as the perfect alien formation dissolved into scattered groups of confused ships. The hegemony vessels, so precise and coordinated minutes before, now drifted in different directions like leaves in a windstorm. "Shields down on the enemy command ship," reported Lieutenant Torres. "It's the big one in the center, Admiral." Could see it, a massive vessel 3 times larger than any other ship in the alien fleet. It had been hidden in the center of their formation, protected by layers of smaller ships. But now those protections were gone, and the command ship stood exposed. "All ships focus fire on that command vessel," ordered. "If we can take it down, the rest might retreat." The human fleet turned toward the alien command ship like wolves sensing wounded prey. Energy beams and missiles streaked through space, striking the giant vessel's failing shields. But even as they attacked, could see the Indomitable dying. Its ancient frigate was breaking apart piece by piece. The hull was cracked in dozens of places, venting atmosphere and debris. One engine was completely gone, and the other flickered weakly. The ship that had fought for over 2 centuries was finally reaching the end of its long journey. Captain called over the communication channel. "Your ship is falling apart. Get your crew to the escape pods." His voice came back faint and distorted. "No escape pods, Admiral. We removed them years ago to make room for more weapons. Besides, we're not done yet." Watched in amazement as the dying Indomitable changed course. Instead of trying to escape, was steering his ship directly toward the alien command vessel. The ancient frigate accelerated on its failing engines, building up speed for one final attack. "He's going to ram it," whispered Commander Park. The alien command ship detected the approaching threat. Its weapons turned toward the Indomitable, pouring energy into the small human vessel. But ship kept coming, trailing fire and debris but refusing to stop. At the last moment's voice came over the communication channel one final time. "For humanity," he shouted. The Indomitable struck the alien command ship at full speed. The explosion was visible from Mars, a brilliant flash of light that the sun for several seconds. When the light faded, both ships were gone. In their place was an expanding cloud of debris and energy that washed over the nearby alien vessels. The effect on the hegemony fleet was immediate and devastating. Without their command ship, the remaining alien vessels lost all coordination. Some fired wildly in random directions. Others stopped moving entirely, as if their crews didn't know what to do without orders from above. "They're breaking formation," Torres reported. "Admiral, they're trying to retreat." Could see it happening across the battlefield. The disciplined alien fleet was falling apart. Ships that had moved with perfect precision now scattered in panic. Some tried to form smaller groups, but without their central command network, they couldn't coordinate their movements. This was humanity's moment. "All ships press the attack," ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The human fleet pursued the retreating aliens with a fury that surprised even. These were professional naval officers, trained to follow regulations and fight with honor. But watching and his crew sacrifice themselves had awakened something primal in the human fleet. They fought like their ancestors had fought, with rage and determination and an absolute refusal to surrender. Captain Martinez led a group of destroyers against a cluster of alien ships trying to reach the edge of the system. The human vessels used hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and then disappearing before the aliens could respond. It was like watching ancient Earth cavalry attacking a confused enemy formation. Commander Park took her cruiser squadron after the aliens' heavy battleships. Instead of fighting ship to ship, she coordinated attacks from multiple directions. The aliens, used to fighting as a unified force, couldn't adapt to this kind of individual initiative. Herself led the attack on the largest remaining alien vessels. Her ship, the Defiance, had been damaged in the early fighting, but her crew worked like machines to keep the weapons firing. Every shot was aimed with precision, every movement calculated to exploit the aliens' confusion. The battle lasted 3 more hours, but the outcome was never in doubt after the Indomitable's sacrifice. The hegemony ships, designed to fight as a single organism, couldn't function as individuals. Their weapons were optimized for coordinated fire patterns. Their shields were designed to overlap with neighboring ships. Their tactics required constant communication with the command network. Without these advantages, they were just large, slow targets for the faster, more adaptable human vessels. By the end, over 200 alien ships had been destroyed or disabled. The survivors, less than half the original fleet, limped toward the edge of the solar system in scattered groups. They sent no demands for surrender, no threats of revenge. They just fled, broadcasting messages in their own language that human computers couldn't translate, but that sounded like pleas for mercy. Let them go. Humanity had won the battle, but she knew the war was far from over. The hegemony controlled hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships. They would be back, probably with new tactics designed to counter what they had learned about human warfare. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Today, humanity had proven something important to the galaxy. They had shown that perfect coordination could be beaten by chaos and determination. They had demonstrated that sometimes the oldest weapons were exactly what you needed for a new war. Most importantly, they had proven that humans would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Stood in the ruins of her bridge, looking out at the debris field that had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Pieces of alien ships drifted past her viewport, along with fragments of the Indomitable. And his crew were gone, but their sacrifice had saved billions of human lives. Admiral, Torres called from his damaged station. I'm receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Put it through, replied. The face of Fleet Admiral Harrison appeared on her screen. The old man was crying, something had never seen before in 20 years of service. Admiral Harrison said, on behalf of humanity, thank you. You and your fleet have saved our species. Looked around her bridge. Her crew was exhausted, injured, but alive. Through her viewport, she could see the other ships of the human fleet. They were damaged but victorious but unbroken. Thank you, sir, replied. But the real heroes are Captain and the crew of the Indomitable. They showed us that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. In the days that followed, the story of the battle spread across human space. The ancient frigate that had appeared from nowhere to save humanity became a legend. Children played games where they pretended to be and his crew. Ships throughout the fleet added the Indomitable's battle cry to their own traditions, but made sure the most important lessons weren't forgotten. She established new training programs that emphasized individual initiative over rigid coordination. She created special units equipped with older, more flexible technology that could operate independently. Most importantly, she made sure that no ship was ever retired as long as it could still fight. The galaxy had learned something new about humanity that day. They had discovered that humans didn't win because they had the best technology or the largest fleets. They won because they refused to fight fair, because they adapted to any challenge, and because they would sacrifice everything for their freedom. The hegemony would remember this lesson. So would every other species in the galaxy. Humanity was not a species to be conquered easily. They were fighters, survivors, and when pushed to the edge, they became something far more dangerous than their enemies ever imagined. They became human,